I was born and brought up near one of the world's greatest freshwater resources, the Great Lakes. I took it for granted, and maybe we all have. I never realized how lucky I was until I had to bathe in a bucket of cold water in Uganda for months. One night, when I was walking through an East African village where we drilled our first borehole or new water source, a young man named Gonzaga came to me and said, "You've brought us water, and water is life. That means you've brought us life. Thank you." And I'm Erin Huber, as you just heard. So I want to thank you for inviting me to your school today. Before we get into Drink Local, Drink Tap, what we do and how you can get involved, I'll give you a little bit more about my history. I went to Mentor High School. I grew up on the east side, where I'm currently in the Alumni Hall of Fame. And my whole life, I really cared about a lot of problems in the world. I got a little overwhelmed when I was in middle school and high school. I thought I had to solve every single problem on the planet. And it was very frustrating to try and think about that. I cared about animal rights and homelessness and pollution and racism and stereotyping and war, so many different things. And I never really figured out how to tie it together until I was ending my studies at Cuyahoga Community College, where I received 2 associate's degrees. And while I was there, I met one of my first mentors, then Councilwoman Nina Turner. And we sat down and we kept brainstorming. How can I tie all of these things that I care about together? People, the planet, the economy. And finally, it just hit us one day. Water. It was something that I'd always been connected to. It connects every single one of us. It doesn't matter how much money we have, what color our skin is, or what religion we practice. We all need water to survive. So I figured, all right, this is it. So after Tri-C, I went to Cleveland State University and received a degree in environmental science, focusing on policy. And my first week at CSU, I saw yet another problem in the world, and I thought it was a problem and decided to do something about it. One of the LEED certified green buildings on campus, the Rec Center at Cleveland State, was supposed to have this 7,000 square foot rooftop garden on it. Does anybody know anything about rooftop gardens? What benefits that they can give? Okay, it's all right. We'll talk about it. So rooftop gardens, instead of just having a black asphalt roof that can soak in a lot of heat and really create this, this heating effect in an urban center called the urban heat island effect. You don't want that because energy bills rise, right? You need more air conditioning. It changes the entire ecosystem of a downtown area. So sometimes people paint their roofs white to reflect the sun to help with that. Or you can plant a rooftop garden, which has additional benefits, like when it rains, the water can percolate through the plants and the soils and come out much cleaner when it goes to our storm drains and out to our lake that we're very lucky to have. So through 2 years, my friend and I, we started sending around sign-up sheets to get this rooftop garden built. We had spaghetti dinners, did all kinds of stuff. We thought this was going to cost about $30,000, so we were trying. And 2 years later, and $250,000 later, we got the rooftop done. So I learned a lot about real-life project management through that process. And I encourage you all, when you go on to college or wherever you go, to reach outside of the normal day-to-day curriculum and immerse yourself in extra projects like this. It can really give you a lot of experience that you'll need in the future. So after the rooftop garden and my bachelor degree, in between the summer of my bachelor degree and master's at CSU, I decided to, with some other people, decide to bring a farmer's market to Cleveland State University. As you might know, urban centers or big downtown areas, especially in Cleveland, tend to have things called food deserts, where there's not a lot of fresh food available for people, and I wanted to change that. So that got started, and then through my master's degree in sustainability policy and new economics, I went to Mayor Jackson, the mayor of Cleveland, if you don't know. I went to his first sustainability summit in 2009. And at that point, I didn't really think anything would come out of it. I definitely didn't think my career would start at this summit, but it did. And what happened was about 700 people from Northeast Ohio got together in one room, and we all dreamt about what we wanted Northeast Ohio to look like in the year 2019. How sustainable could our economy be? How sustainable could our environment be? Our water, health care, safety of our neighborhoods. So we talked about all of these things, and I ended up in the water group, and we ended up talking about all of these different things on how to get people connected to the water, redeveloping the lakefront, taking care of all the algal blooms and invasive species and plastic pollution. And after we kept meeting after the summit, we started to realize that if people weren't thinking about the water they were putting in their own bodies every day, it was going to be really hard for people to think about algal blooms and plastic pollution and invasive species and wrap their heads around this stuff. So we wanted to meet people where they were at. So we started the Drink Local, Drink Tap campaign to have people start thinking about the water they were putting in their own bodies every day. We are very lucky to have the Great Lakes. If you didn't know, we have 20% of the entire world's fresh surface water right in our backyard. And it serves over 80% of the United States drinking water supply. That's a pretty big deal. We really try to get people's heads, especially in Northeast Ohio, wrapped around the fact that we're lucky to have this Great Lake and tap water. And bottled water can create a lot of problems in the world. And not just here, but eventually to our oceans. So our Cleveland tap water is tested 300 times a day. And bottled water, it's 1% of one person in the FDA's job to manage the entire and oversee the entire bottled water industry. And those companies don't have to report back to you what they found in their water. On top of all of that, 25% of all bottled water is still just municipal tap water, and it costs 2,000 times the amount. So we think it's really important for people to wrap their heads around that and get connected to that and save some money, but also think about what that plastic, that disposable plastic addiction that a lot of the industrialized world has. Where does disposable plastic end up? Has anybody ever been to Costa Rica or a small island or anywhere where they've seen a lot of trash? I have. All of this trash ends up in someone else's backyard. And it's all plastic. And the fish didn't throw it in the ocean. We did that. So when we litter in our neighborhoods, or things blow out of a garbage truck or out of a trash can, or we throw a cigarette on the ground, all of that goes down through our sewers, into our rivers, lakes, streams, out to the oceans. And those plastics especially, they crash around through this whole process, end up in the ocean. And there's a place in the Pacific 2 times the size of the United States full of our plastic, and we don't know what to do about it. The only thing that we can do in our individual lives right now is not use the stuff. Does anybody have a reusable bottle? Okay, good. Some of you do, that's great. This is what I use all the time: glass, stainless steel. Find one you like and carry it around. It's much more sustainable than using that plastic. So our goal right now at Drink Local, Drink Tap is to inspire the world to carefully value and protect water as a basic necessity of life. We all need it. We do that through different programming, events, and actually working in Africa, bringing water to people in need. So our 3 focus areas are access, education, and activism, and we work with communities here in Northeast Ohio through that, and also in Uganda in Africa. Through our education and activism, we have tons of community outreach events that we participate in, about 25 or more each year. We make different documentaries and videos. We have a free bottled water versus tap water video online that you can check out. We have our Wave Maker program for schools, which is why we're here today. We do a lot of different public speaking and awareness engagements, and we have a really cool event May 9th, which is called 4 Miles for Water, and you'll hear more about that in a minute. We also have 7 beach cleanups each year, and we're always looking for people to help lead them and also come and volunteer. And it's really important, especially this time of year, to get down to the beaches once the snow melts to get all that trash that's been buried for a really long time. So we work down at Edgewater Park. It's about the 3rd Saturday of every month. It's normally on Facebook, is the best place, or the calendar on our website. And our first one's coming up April 25th. So we clean up Perkins Beach, which isn't connected to the main beach at Edgewater. And the beachcombers that the Cleveland Metro Parks have now can't clean that area. So the only way that area gets clean is if people like you come down and help pick up the mess. I know that's what you all want to do on a Saturday morning. It's fun. So we think in order for anyone to become a wave maker in the world, you can do some really simple things. You can take action by refusing disposable plastic, kick the bottled water habit, bring your own bags to the grocery store, do things like that. Also, conserving water is extremely important. Not taking a 30-minute shower is really helpful to the environment. Volunteering at a beach cleanup or a river cleanup or picking up around your school is a great way to help out our lake. And also giving back, thinking more globally, not just focusing on here, because remember, we're all connected by water. Focusing on also the fact that 1 billion people don't have access to safe water, and we can do something about that. So 4 Miles for Water, you all have a flyer in front of you, is on May 9th at Edgewater Park. It's from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it's a really cool event that we started last year. We had about 1,500 people. We had about 400 people register to race. And if you register to run or walk, all of that, 100% of your registration fee goes to support our work. And if you're under 18, it's only $10, and you get a free reusable water bottle, which is pretty cool. And later at night, 7 to 10, you're welcome to also partake in a free reggae concert with Carlos Jones and the Plus Band, if you're into that. I am going to show you a quick commercial that we have for it. They say water is life. But for people around the world, to have fresh water, they need to walk on average 4 miles to get it. Cleveland, join us May 9th at Edgewater Park. Run or walk to help bring clean water to people who need it. Enjoy the All Things Water Festival, beer garden, food trucks, and live music. You can also be part of David Christoph's 21 Marathon cross-country journey for water. How far would you go for water? So you saw a bunch of people walking with these bottles on their head. Last year, we did something really cool. We broke a Guinness World Record of the most people carrying a container of water on their head. It was a lot of fun. We'll have a new Guinness World Record next year, but I can't tell you what it is. So this guy is so cool. His name's David Christoph, and he's been in America since January, running 21 marathons across the United States to raise awareness and funds for our water projects in East Africa. So you can get a chance to meet him at the event, and he's actually running a full marathon at the 4 mile course. So I hope to see you there. So getting to the global part of what we do, the access portion, and why we do it, this is going to take up a bulk of our time today, and if you have any questions along the way, please ask. We work globally because we know that there is this immediate cry for help in the world. There are people literally losing their lives every single day because they don't have safe water to drink. And more people have access to cell phones in this world than they do to proper sanitation. So we have a really big problem on our hands. We started going to Uganda in 2011, And we started going there because we met a local school teacher here in Cleveland who was from Uganda. And I went into their classroom to talk about water, and I saw these letters written on the wall in a different language. And I found out these kids in Uganda were telling kids in Cleveland that they had no water, no clothes, no books, no parents. And I heard they had no water, and I finally knew how I could tie it all together. I knew we had to do something about it. So the next day I got on the phone with Africare and UNICEF and all these really big nonprofit organizations or non-governmental organizations. And I said, hey, how do I bring these 700 kids water? And they laughed at me. I was really frustrated. They laughed at me because my project wasn't big enough for them. These kids didn't matter in my mind. That's what they were telling me. Now, don't get me wrong, Africare and UNICEF, they do a lot of great work in the world. But these 700 kids matter too. So at that moment, I decided, you know what? We're going to take a film crew to Africa, we're going to make a story about these kids, and we're going to figure out how to get them water. And let me just tell you, I did not go to school for learning how to drill boreholes. So we made this documentary called Making Waves from Cleveland to Uganda. And I'm leaving a copy of it with your school so you can watch it in your classrooms if you'd like. If you don't know where Uganda is, it's in East Africa. It's right above Lake Victoria, which is ironically the Great Lakes region of Africa in East Africa. But the difference between this region and that Great Lakes region is they don't have access to that water, and it's not safe to drink. So my first day on the entire continent of Africa, like any normal person would do, I went to the second largest slum in the entire world. And when I was there, I met people who had never seen a shower, a faucet, a Great Lake. How many of you have used a toilet today? I don't want to know where the rest of you went. Yeah, I love toilets, they're great. In this building that we're all in today, this building has more toilets than this entire slum for 1 million people. Before we went into the slum that day, my friend Daniel here, he lives there. And he looked at me and he said, Erin, you know, it's okay if you cry. I said, whoa, that's deep. I'd never had to say that to anyone before they came to my neighborhood in Tremont or Gordon Square or Lakewood, right? So as we're walking through the slum all day, we're walking through this brown material. I thought it was all mud, garbage. And then I started to realize there was no toilets. There were no toilets, excuse me. The animals were defecating, people were going to the bathroom. It was not a clean place to be. What was crazy though is as I went through the day and as now I've gone through years working in Africa, I continue to see this happening. Even in the most dire of situations in the world, I see people helping each other, loving each other, paying attention to each other. I think it's very, very important to learn from this. So in this place, it's not just waterless or toiletless. They also deal with a lot of corruption. So I want to show you an example of unfulfilled promises. This cistern here, this thing that holds water, this container, was supposed to be hooked up by the government. It was given to the slum by the government. And so were these electrical lines in the background. Well, the power's never on and the cistern never worked. It's completely contaminated, it has holes and cracks, and wasn't put in properly. So the governments there a lot of times will do things to get election votes and then never look back. So I couldn't imagine getting my water from a place like this. I couldn't imagine, especially being a female, I want all of us, especially the females in the room, to think about this, not having a private place to go to the bathroom. It's not a good life to have. And taking a shower in the slum is unheard of, at least the way we take a shower. This little girl up top here, she's waiting for someone to come by with a couple of shillings, a couple of cents basically, to give her money to go back there and get clean water to bathe in. So I saw all of this crazy stuff and bawled my eyes out day one in Africa, but not all of Africa looks like this. I was fortunate enough to go to some beautiful places, learning about water throughout Tanzania and Zanzibar, both very still underdeveloped countries without access to safe water, very dry. And unfortunately, I had to buy bottled water at that point. And then finally we reached this village where these 700 kids lived, and I was so excited. And I'd like to show you the trailer to the movie that we made so you get a feel for the village and the students there.
Mulaji, Uganda. It's hilly, rural country about 40 miles from the capital. It's in the Luwero district. There isn't really any running water here. So, every morning, the people, usually little kids, walk to the nearest source to get it and carry it back. Sometimes, it's more than 2 miles. This is a story about one woman from Cleveland, Ohio, one of the most water-abundant places on Earth, and her mission to share the water wealth of the Great Lakes region with the St. Charles Bonaventure School in Mulaji.
Our kids waste time collecting water.
All I could think about in my head was, they do this twice a day.
It takes more than 30 pumps to get water.
And then you must preach to them that God is good, God loves you, and He wants to be happy. But inside my heart, I know that these people are not happy.
This is a story about people connecting across the globe and using water to do it. Water. It makes up most of our bodies. It covers most of the earth. It is fundamental to life. It also drives agriculture, creates energy, and carries disease. This is a story about how determination, innovation, and hope helped create a world community around water, fighting against the obstacles, against the odds, to make positive change. Find out more, follow the story, or even better, join it. Help wake the world to water.
So when we got to this village, we learned about where water was coming from in the village. And most of the time, if people were lucky enough in this area of Uganda, they had a village borehole. And borehole basically, it's a fairly simple piece of technology. You drill a hole down through rock, you get to the aquifer, the place where there's smaller rocks and water in between the rocks that you can suck out. And then as people pump this, water comes out and they can fill their jerry cans. This is kind of an example of a jerry can. And this is what the kids would carry about an average of 4 miles a day in Uganda before they go to school at like 6 in the morning. Imagine getting up at 6 and carrying this thing. And then you have to go fight with all of the other villagers who are trying to get water to get your can under there to fill it. And you gotta walk back to school. And then sometimes this stuff isn't even safe to drink. It makes you sick. It's pretty crazy to have to do that so early. And guess what? You have to do it again after school too. People in the village, they collect water any possible way they can think of. They use old pots and old pieces of sheet metal, and the kids get so thirsty by the time they get to the borehole, they know they're not supposed to drink straight from it, but you do what you gotta do when you're thirsty. The kids go, and women especially, go day and night. And there's a lot of safety issues going at night or going as a female, especially again. You can get taken advantage of along the way. You can get attacked by animals, snakes, other wild animals, people. So it's, the kids face a lot of dangers, and the teachers really worry about that. This stuff is very heavy, but even in the village, outside of the slum in a completely different country, I always saw people helping each other. This water is used to do everything someone has to do in one day. So imagine taking this one can, this 5-gallon container, and you have to brush your teeth, wash your face, wash everything. You have to drink, you have to cook, you have to clean, and you're trying to grow food too, because there's no giant eagle there. And a lot of times people aren't using clean containers because they're using the water they collect to do things, not to clean their containers. So they end up going to these springs or boreholes, and they use these blue containers up here. Those are old motor oil containers. And you can see down below the containers here. They're very, very dirty. And the water down below is extremely nasty. You would not want to drink it. So when I was in the village that first time, I learned so much, and I continue to learn a lot every time I go back. I learned so much from the teachers. They give so much to the students and the community. They work for about $100 a month. $100 a month, 6 days a week, and then they take care of their own farms and families and everything. Even the kids having nothing maybe in our eyes. If they don't have enough money for lunch, for the porridge, maybe their only meal of the day, they'll share with each other. They'll share the little that they have. They taught me so much about being a community. Something I think that, especially in America, I think we're trying to get back to that feeling with farmers market and local campaigns and all of that kind of stuff. We're trying to remake our communities again. And we can learn a lot from people here. And we had brought them a lot of hope. Whenever an international visitor shows up in a village, people immediately think, oh my gosh, how is my life going to get better? This is wonderful. They are just so excited. They just have this hope, and they don't even know. They're saying thank you before they even know why you're there. And we knew that we had the money, the education, and the tools to share back with them. So after that first trip, I came home, and through our Wavemaker program, students in Northeast Ohio raised money for the borehole project. People were writing pen pal letters back and forth. We celebrated World Water Day, which we do every March 22nd. We have students that we work with carry their day's supply of water with them to honor kids who have to do that every day. And then we finally went back to Uganda in 2012 to start drilling. If you're wondering what this is a stick that we left in the ground after we surveyed, so we knew where we had to drill. It's very fancy project management there. So this is the drill truck that we bring in, and these are all the rods that we have to punch down into the ground. If anybody's thinking about being an engineer or doing things like this, you can make a living doing this. Maybe even we'll hire you. Our first project here finally was complete in 2012 at St. Bonaventure Primary School. And I just want to talk a little bit about the Water Committee and what that is. So 80% of the water projects built in the world fail in the first 2 years because there was no sustainability plan put in place. And what that means is, at least to me, that maybe people had good hearts, but they didn't take the time to actually listen and get to know the people they were working with. A lot of times in the charity world, I think people make a mistake in thinking, you know, they're bringing something to someone or they know best. Let us bring this to you. We know best what to do for you. But I flip that around. It's important for us to listen and treat each other as equals. So we like to include people in the process of this project development. We don't just show up in Africa and drill a hole and say, see you later. Some people do. We spend about 5 to 6 years monitoring these projects as of now. Could be longer. We interview schools. We sit down with the local council people, the students, the teachers, the parents, everyone. We get a committee formed. They open a bank account to save money so when things go wrong, which they do, they need to maintain this borehole, that they have the money to fix it themselves. They know who to call. We follow up and make sure that they don't need any more training. So we really try to take a lot of care in making sure these projects last. And I'm happy to say that this project is going really well. We even added a second phase to it. We added a gravity-fed tap system. So we took the borehole off, we put 200 meters of pipe underground, and we fed the water into a tank which feeds down into actual faucets. It was the first time anyone in the village had seen running water from a tap. So I get to do some really fun things too. I take a break on the weekends sometimes, and I hang out with wild boars and hippos and things like that. One of our first projects was at this AIDS orphanage, which I'm bringing up because it's a place that's very close and near and dear to my heart. It's a place where we built 2 projects actually. There's 250 orphans at this place. They go to school there, they live there, they have nothing. And these kids, a lot of them have HIV or epilepsy or other diseases, and they're being taken care of by these 2 wonderful people. And they had no water when I met them. They had no water on their farm, they had no water at their school. So since meeting them, we have rehabilitated their water tanks that is no longer broken. Both of their water tanks are functional. We have built a gravity-fed irrigation system on their farm. It was the first time anyone in this area had seen irrigation happening from a tank. And this is the borehole at Family Spirit AIDS Orphanage. It was a really muddy project. And just like everything else doesn't go to waste in Africa, neither did the mud. The kids ended up making clay projects with them during the entire day. This is what we showed up to, and this is what we see at schools a lot. We see these rainwater tanks or boreholes completely broken down. Many times, things that were built in the last 5 years. So this tank had 3 wheelbarrows full of this sludge inside. It wasn't built properly. It was built with people who just built a tank and didn't know anything about plumbing or water tanks or anything. So we definitely try to make sure that we work with the right people when we build projects. So right now we have 12 new schools interviewed and in the pipeline for funding and project implementation, and we hope to get those done over the next 18 months if possible. So you can be part of that if you want to and fundraise through your school or your religious organization. You can help support all of our work or help, just the mission stay stronger by participating in 4 Miles for Water. You can help by inviting us to other schools that you may have brothers and sisters at in Lakewood, and you can come to a beach cleanup and volunteer. The kids that we are working with now, we've started to try and focus on areas in Uganda where kids are walking very, very far distances and they don't even have access to a borehole. They just have access to swamps. And these swamps where kids are getting water, sometimes they're full, sometimes they're dried up. This water up here is actually gray. It's so contaminated, it's actually gray. And when you go in it to go fill your jerry can, you get bit by a lot of different things. You get skin issues. This water here, shared with cattle, which bring worms, and the kids get worms in their stomachs. It's called bilharzia. And then we have some crowded, dried up springs. Kids just trying to get the last drops out of some springs in the area. And they have to fight with all of these other villagers when doing that. So we want to change that situation. And it only takes about $30 could bring safe water to one person for the rest of their life. So if you leave here today remembering that number and thinking about what you spend $30 on, maybe throughout the year you might be able to help one person. It's up to you. So I'd like to end with just hoping that we can connect with all of you on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the good stuff. And I really, really hope to see you at one of our beach cleanups at 4 Miles for Water. And I'd like to take any questions that you have right now. Thank you.